apps application and realized that users are getting lost jumping from one screen to their other. All right, if that's your case, in this video, I'll be showing you on how you can build a clean user-side navigation as shown here, so that you can actually direct your users or guide them from screen to screen. So if you want to go to dashboard, you click on dashboard, it takes you to dashboard. If you want to go to your pending request, it takes you to the pending request. If you want to go to your issue tracking, for instance, it takes you to that screen, so users are not confused. So if you have that as a challenge, stay with me in this brief session, and I'll be showing you how you can solve that. All right, without wasting much time, let's get started. So let me remove this from preview. So to create this side navigation, you will be needing a collection. One of the things you'll be needing is a collection, and let me play this again. You'll be needing a collection which will be housing this dashboard, pending report, or issue tracking. Some persons actually use table. You'll be needing icon. You can see the icon when this, for instance, dashboard is not clicked. You can see the color of the icon, and when it is clicked, you can see that the icon is white. So you'll be needing two icons for each of these, when it is active and when it is not active. All right, so let me show us the collection so we can see how the collection looks. You go to your app on start of your application. You go to app on start. That is where you can set or visible of the screen, but for I'm using on start. So this is my primary color, which is this, which I set to this. Then primary hover color. Then this is the collection I talked about. You can use table, but I prefer using collection. The name of my collection is called RO side nav. So for instance, depending on your use case, you built a user, maybe you built a leave request application, and you want the users to have their own side nav, and also the line manager, the employee line manager, to have their own side nav. So for user, take for instance, the user should have a dashboard. You can add it here, users dashboard here. Then the users should be able to see their pending request. You would also add it, and also to see the rejected request, you can also add it. So once they click on it, it takes them to the rejected request, where they can see all the requests that has been rejected. So you can tailor this, customize it to suit your own business need. All right, so this is the name of the collection. Then you add the different this one is ID1, title is dashboard. You can, depending on your use case, like I keep mentioning, so you can do it like this. Then active icon, remember I talked about when it is clicked and when it is not clicked. So when it is clicked, this is the icon I added. I called it active dashboard icon. And when it is not clicked, this is the icon that will be visible to the user. So if you want it to navigate to a screen, this is where you add the screen. You just type the name of your screen here. I'll be showing that when we are done building the side navigation. So you've seen it, then you just close your collection. So having done that, remember it's also reusable. So it's a custom component. So I built it as a custom component. I can use it wherever I like. Also, there is a logo here, but I don't really have a nice logo. That is why I did not add it, or I turned it off. So to show you how I was able to achieve this, and also there's a log out button. When you click on it, it takes you to your landing screen. All right, so we'll be seeing that you go to your component, and this is where I created it. This is the component here. So there is, just like I mentioned, there is a logo, a company logo, but currently I did not add any because I did not get any that will suit this for now. So but if you have any, you can add it. So we'll be creating this from scratch, and let's get started. Like I mentioned, to create it, we created it as a custom component. So you just click on this, and it's component 2. So I'll be renaming it to, let's say, side nav. I'll be calling it side nav. So now you can see the width. So we want to resize the width. So you go to the width. You see, I want to give it app.design width. I want to times it by 20%. I want it to be 20% of the design of the entire screen. So this is what we have. So the next thing is you need to add a container, which is a responsive container, a vertical responsive container. So I'll just do that, insert a container So this is a vertical container. I'll add it. So I want to resize it. I'll say the height. Go to the height, parent.height. The height is parent.height. If you have any question, you can drop it in the comment box. Maybe in the next video, I can also answer it. So the width, you do the same thing, parent.width. You say parent.width, so it will take. So for instance, if you adjust the parent width, it will readjust itself. So the x and y, you set it to 0 so that it can lap proper. The x is already 0, you set the y to 0. Alright, so the next thing is we want to take out the border radius. I also want to take out the, okay, currently the border is, we set it to none. Drop shadow, we are setting it to none. So remember, we have, if you have a logo, you add a container for logo. So let's add it. Container. So I would, this is it. I want to rename it to logo container. Logo container. Then I'll turn off the flexible height, then you give it the height. I want to give it the height of, let's say, 70. I want to give it the height, then you go to, what's it called? Take the radius out, then the border also, we are setting it to none. The drop shadow, we are setting it to none. So having done this, we want to add the logout container. There's a button for logout here, so I'll be adding it here. On the parent container, you add insert container. Alright, insert container, you can use vertical or any of those container you want. So vertical, or so rename it to logout container. So this is our logout container. So the next thing is turn off the flexible height so that you can give it a size. Let's give it a size of 100. We also take out the border radius and the drop shadow. So the next thing is to add there's a container that will be in the middle to house the different buttons. So I'll go to select the parent container. We can call it main container. So select the main container, you add a vertical container also. Container, when you type in container. So we go to the main container, it has shifted. You go to the X property, then you set the X to 0. So once you set the X to 0, it's readjust. So this is the content, we call it content container. So I want to turn off the flexible. So the height, I want to resize it. I want to set it dynamically. I say parent.height minus remember the logo container minus logo container.height minus the logout container.height. So I want to readjust. I want to take this to the top. Reorder, take it to the top, move up. So there's a space here. So let's check whether the parent container has a padding. Parent container. There's no padding. Padding button is looking like there's currently no padding. The logout container, let's take for instance starts. Okay. A height of 100. Oh, the width. Let's set the width. Sorry. Parent.width. We'll do the same for others also. You go to the width. Parent.width. You do the same thing for this one. The width also, you set it to parent.width. So let me be very sure of this. So let me copy the name of this one. Control C. Control A, Control C. Then go to content container. Then the height. Let's go back to the height. We see parent.height. Oh, this is where the issue came from. We say parent.height minus logout container minus. Let me just paste this, man. Let me paste this. Dot height. Let me copy the logo. Let me copy this one. Control C. Then come back here. So I'll paste it again. Okay, you can see it has fitted proper now because we're referencing the wrong container. Alright, so inside of this now, we want to turn off the border radius. We want to turn off the drop shadow. So the next thing is to add a gallery. So we want to give it a padding top so that it can push whatsoever it is. Let's give it a padding top of, let's say 60 for instance. Then add a gallery, a vertical gallery. So I'm adding a gallery to the container. So the size, the width, we want to give it parent.width. So the height now would be parent.height minus the padding that we added. So the height. Instead of having a static value, say parent.height minus parent dot padding top. Then turn off the flexible. Then the next thing is okay, we've set minus parent padding bottom. All right, so the next thing is to scroll down. I want to take out all this that we don't need. So I'll go to this gallery. I'll just delete. I want to delete all this. I don't need it. We don't need this. Delete. I want to remove all this. We'll just add what we need. We don't need this. So we'll go to our gallery. Then the template size, I want to set it to 50. It's currently 104. So inside of this now, you insert a container to house the image and the text. So you now go to insert container. So you can choose to use a responsive horizontal container, anyone you prefer. So I'm using a non-responsive container. So I want to give it a height. Let me give it a height of 35. Then in width, I want to see parent.width. I'll minus 35 from it. So that it can give space. So we've minus 35 from it. So the next thing is to center this thing inside our container. To do that, you go to the X property. Instead of setting it to 40, you say parent dot template width divide by 2. That is the entire width divide by 2 minus self dot width divide by 2. So you can see it has centered it. So you do the same thing on the X, on the Y axis. You copy this and go to the Y axis. This time around, instead of template width, it will be template height. So I'll paste this and just, instead of having a template width, I'll make it a template height. Instead of having a width here, it will be height. So you can see it has been centered. So I want to take out the border radius. Okay, border radius, I want to make it 8. I don't need this. So the next thing is, if you preview this, nothing is showing for now. So the next thing is to add our image control. Insert image. So you type image. Then you resize it to 2020. You can use 2020 so that it can be small. So scroll up. I want to give it X is 10. So just like we did for setting the main container, you can go to the Y. You can say parent dot height minus self dot height. Sorry, I skipped the part of divide by 2. Divide by 2. So you see it has centered our image. So the next thing is to add our text input for the different text. So you click on that control. So you now insert a text label. You type in text label. So this is our text label. So we'll now have to reset the X of this. So you can copy the image. This is image 4. I want to copy the name. Ctrl C. So I can say come to this text label now. Let's for the height. Let's make the height parent.height. Then the width. Let me try 400 and see. Oh, 250. All right, so the X of this, we want to set it to the image 4.x plus image 4.width so that it will start immediately after it. So I'll go to X. Instead of having 40, I'll paste this dot width plus dot X. So it will start immediately after this. All right. Then the next thing is the font size. You can change it to 10 or 10.5, anyone you want. So I think, so the last thing we'll be doing is just to add a button so that it will be clickable. We'll add a button. So if you want a space, you can add like +5. If you want to give it a small space, +5. All right, so let me publish this. Always remember to save and publish, because of, you don't know, sometimes Power Apps can actually act up. So always remember to save and publish. So the next thing is to make this thing look clickable. You select the parent container, then add a button, a transparent button. Just insert a button. You say button. I'm using a classic button. Then the width, you see parent.width, height, parent.height. So the X and Y, you set it to 0. So you see. So the next thing is to take out this text. Then fill. I'm making the fill to be you make it transparent. Then you go to hover color. We'll be making it color fade. Let's go to the, instead of having this, we'll call it we'll have a primary color that we define when on start of the application, which I showed. How did I spell that? Okay, color fade, primary color. I cannot access it, so what I have to do is come to this side nav, the main this thing, then turn on this access. So you now go back. So I'll type again primary. If you don't turn on that, you would not be able to access those variables in your app on start. So the disabled, I'm turning it to. So if I hover on this, you can see what I'm having. This is hover. I'm having. Let me make it 30% of the primary color. So if I hover, you can see. All right. So we are getting there. So now, the next thing is you select your gallery. Now the item of your gallery. You now go to the item. Go to item. So you will not use this again. You now point it back to your data you created on start. Like you go to your screen, this data here, this table, this collection, we created a collection. You now point it to this collection. You now copy this, then go back. Instead of having custom gallery, you paste this. So now so this, when you paste this, you go to the text label. The text, you go to the text property. It will be this item.text. You check out for the text property. It will now be this item dot title. So the title now, you see the title is now showing dashboard, pending reports, and issue tracking. So now there's something we're going to do. So we need to add a container for the logout button here. So I'll just copy this one. I'll copy this, copy. Then you come to the logout container and paste it. So we done. The text should be logout because we are not referencing any collection here. So log out. So let me scroll down. So the less flexible height is on, sorry, turn it off. Then want to resize its width. We'll set it to 120. Then the image. So inside here we cannot use templates, so I'll just change it to width, parent.width. So we check for the next error. We cannot use template height to be parent.height. So the text, we now come to the text color, logout, check the color. Let's check the color. Color is black. Okay, X and Y, sorry. Remember, this is in this. It's acting like this because it is in a vertical container, and in a vertical container, it is setting it. So let's inside of this go to the logouts. Let's see what's happening in the logout part. So image is there, the text label, the X is okay. We have to give it a width, resize the width. Check for the width of it because it's taking the width of the original, which is bigger than the current size. Then the Y, click on the Y property. A little, you check on the Y property. Let's say parent. Divide by 2 minus self dot height. Divide by 2. So you can see it is now positioned proper. So button. So this container, we can now set the border of this container to 1.5. Then the border color. Let's check for it here. Border color. I want it to be the primary color. Then the border radius, we can make it 35 to be visible. So you can see what we have. Let me give it a padding top to move it a little bit. So if I preview, you can see what we have. Logout. So this image now, you just set it to the logout image. You just go to image, then look for logout. So if you preview, this is what we have. Then the text color. Currently, what's the text color? You can go here, color. I want it to be the primary color also. So if you preview, this is what we have. Alright, so the next thing is to do the same thing for this, the image and the text color. So when a user selects, this is what it should be. So to do that, I'll just quickly copy from what we have. So if I go to the format this, you can see on select of this, we set this to be this. We set var selected item equals to this item.id. Then if you have screen, you can navigate. I'll copy this so we can add a test screen so we can navigate. Ctrl C. Then so you come to your button. Sorry, let me take this up. Go back, come here. So this button now, you go to unselect. You then paste this. So what this is saying is, we say once a user selects this, set this item, var selected item, we are setting a variable, this item.id. Remember, we have 3 items on our collection. The first one has an ID of 1. The second one has an item ID of 2. The third one has an ID of 3. So if I click on the first one, set the item ID, the var selected nav item to 1. If it is the second one, it will be 2. If it is the third one, it will be 3. So that's what we'll be using to change the color and the feel of this. So if you now come, we'll now go to the fill. You now go to the fill. I'll just copy this quickly. Come here, fill. Go to the field and now say if Control C. So I will explain this to you so you understand. You come to this your container, you go to the field, and so the field is this. But what we are saying now is, we know, remember on select of the button we set a variable which is var selected nav item. So if this item is equal to 1, set the color to primary color. Else it will set it to this other color. So that is what we, on click of it, this. So the same thing will go to the text. You see, if this is, then the same thing for the image. If var selected is visible, you copy the same thing, go to the image. We go to the image. You remember we have active and image. Instead of sample image, we now paste this. We now say if var selected does not, if it is selected, we return active. How did we even call it? Active icon. All right. This item dot active icon. S. This item dot icon. So we are saying if this is selected, for instance, you can use if this is selected if you want to. If the var selected item is equal to this, make the icon to be the active icon. That is when you click on that button, make it to be the active icon. S, it should be the normal icon. So the text color, we can still do the same thing for it. You can see now. Then you go to the color. You go to the text label. Then the color. Currently it is this is the color black. So we can now come here and say, we can comment this out and say, paste this. If our selected item ID equals to this one item, then what do you want? If it is selected, we say we want it to be white. Say color dot white. S, it should be color dot black. Either I say color dot black or you copy this one here and paste it there. Control C. You paste this here. So you can see, if I go back, you can see we already have everything ready now. So if I hover on this is the hover color. So let's go to the hover and see if we can, when you hover, what should be the color? Currently hover color is white. Let's check on it. Minus 30%, color fade, minus 30% of this. Let me see if it's the same that I used here. So you can see hover color. I want to check the hover because go to the hover. Okay, primary hover field dots. Control C. So we'll come back to the one we are building ourselves. Button. Okay, so this is what we have. So let me go to app on start and show you what the primary hover field. On start of my application, I set a variable. I set primary color to this color, then primary hover to this. So I now did my minus 30% of it as the hover field. So that is it. So you can see what we have now. We are done. So once you click on this is when you click on this, the image shows. All right, so this is it. So we are done with it. So please, If you derive value from this, please hit the subscribe button, comment, and share so that the algorithm can actually share this to more people and also help in the channel growth. So if you want to add an icon, a logo, you can add a logo here, but I don't really have a nice logo, so I don't want to add anything. So but this container here is for logo. You can add an image control, then add a logo of your own. So the next thing is, if you want to navigate, so the beauty of this is you want to navigate to different screen when you click on this button. So let's go and let me show you how you can do it. So we are done with creating this. If you have any question, drop it in the comment box. So you go to your screen, for instance. This is the previous one we had. So I want to create a new screen. I want to call it blank. I want to create a blank screen. Then screen 3, rename it to, let's call it demo screen. Copy. So inside this demo screen, I want to add that side nav that we created. So inside of this, you now say insert container. I want to add a horizontal container, then resize it to cover the entire screen. You go to the width, see parent.width. Let's width parent.width. The same thing for the height, parent.height. Then the x and y, you set it to 0, just like we've been doing. Set it to 0. Then you come down. I'm taking out the border, the drop shadow. So if you want to insert your component that you built, you can just come to insert, then component, custom. When you click on custom, once you click on this custom, it will show you the different custom components. Side nav, you can see, you can resize it, go to the height. So this is it. So you can see there is no, it doesn't have border. The border is not showing. There are two ways you can actually do that. You can either choose to add a container before adding your custom control, or you go to your components and add a rectangle. So you can see when I click on this, it is loading. So I don't want that. You can now go to your gallery and look for type load. Loading, if you type load spinner. So I'll update it to none. I'll set it to none. That way it will not be loading each time, every time my screen renders. So once I've done this, then to add that, I can now go to this. We did not set the height here. Height. You can set it to app.design app.design height, so that it will take the entire height of wherever you put it. So let me check my logout container. Logout container. Height is this. Let me undo. So what actually brought me here was to show us adding that. The way to do it is just you come to this and add a rectangle. Rectangle. I think you give it a width of 1. Then you set the Y to 0. Then I think the height also you have to, let me see if it's all right. Parent dot height. So we want to move it to this end. We'll now go to the end. I think parent dot width minus self dot width. So if you do it, it will align it to the right. Then you can now change the color, the fill of the rectangle. I want to change it to color dot gray. So if I go back to my screen, demo screen now, you can see we have that gray. You can see we have that gray by the side. Alright, so the next thing is showing us how we can navigate. Once you click on this, it will navigate to this dashboard screen. Once you click on this, it will navigate to this. Once you click on this, it will navigate to this. So to do that, we'll have to duplicate this screen to 3. I'll duplicate it to 2 places so that. So let's add I want to add let's see, text label. So we can differentiate text label. I want to call it dashboard. So I want to call it dashboard so that we can separate, so you can know when it is. So this screen is called dashboard, for instance. We are doing this for test purpose. So let's duplicate this screen. Duplicate screen. So we'll call, let me rename it dashboard demo 1. Let's call it demo 1. So the text here, we'll call it pending. Let's call it pending screen. So the width, let's give it a width of 300. Alright, so I want to also duplicate this one so we can have the third screen. Duplicate. The third screen is issue tracking screen. So I want to show us how we can navigate. So this one now, we'll call it demo 2. So demo 2. This one now, update it to issue tracking screen. So assuming you have 3 screens, we have demo screen 1 for pending request, demo screen for what's it called, for the issue tracking. The third one is issue tracking. So how do you navigate when you click on these buttons? How do you navigate? Alright, so how to do that is you just go to your control. Remember, on start of your application, you created the collection. I'll just copy this demo screen and go to my screen on start. I'll go to app on start. The place where you see a place for screen, you now go to this place for screen. Instead of having it blank, I'll now add the name of my different screen. So the first screen is demo screen, the second screen is demo screen 1. So you just do it like that, demo screen 1. Then the third screen is demo screen 2. So you can see. So we created a collection, dashboard, when we have icon for active icon and when it is not active. Then the screen, your different screen, you add it depending on your use case. For instance, depending on your use case, so you add the different screens. So once you've done this, then you now go to your, what's it called, your side nav, your component. This is it. Then you now go to the button. On select of that button, on select. So you can see where we said navigate this item dot screen. This item dot screen. So that's just the simple thing here. So this item dot screen. Finish. To navigate to the different screens, it's just adding navigate. The same thing we do with your power apps. Navigate, then this item dot screen, then the transition, anyone you want. So that's all. Then remember, on select of this button, we are saying the set this selected item to whatever the ID is. So we'll now go to our screens. Then I'll copy this. So I'll show you what this thing is. Before pasting this, I'll show you how it is. So let me run the app on start again so we can see. Run on start. So this is the main screen here, dashboard. So if I play this, this is the that we are in dashboard. Once I click on dashboard, it takes me to dashboard. Once I click on pending, it takes me to pending request. Once I click on issue tracking, it takes me to issue tracking. You can see it. It's very simple. So this is how you can navigate with your side nav. So if you have more than 3, you can add it. So you click on dashboard, it takes you to dashboard. You click on pending request, it takes you to pending request. You click on issue tracking, it takes you to the issue tracking. So if you derive value from this, please hit the subscribe button, share, comment, and maybe you can also comment which other videos you would want us to share or learn together. So I think I noticed something. This actually resized. So let me try and see if I can see why my logout button resized. Let's go to component, side nav. This is it. And everything is looking fine here, but when I went to my go to my application, parent.height. I'm trying to see why this is not. Let me add another one and see. Sorry, I want to add another component and see. So this one sits proper. Let's go and see the height of this one. Okay, up. Should I Control C? The roots container. So I'm trying to just troubleshoot why it is not so let's go to the height of this one. Parent.height minus padding top. Okay, this is a gallery, sorry, not the container. Let's go to the container. Parent.height minus logo minus. You can see this logout is not selecting. Let me be very sure of this container. I want to let me rename the container, logout container A. Control C. You can see what is happening here. It is referencing another container. You can see it was referencing another control. That is why it was having. So always take note of how you name your containers, because I already have that name logout container in another component. So it was referencing it. So if I go back to my screen now, you can see it is now sitting proper. You can see it is now well aligned. So I think we've come to the end of this session. Please, if you derive value from this, hit the like button, share, and also comment. So just like I mentioned before I go, you can add a logo here so that this piece doesn't look blank. You can add a logo here so as to maybe the customer or your application logo, you can add it if you have one. So thank you very much, and always remember to share and comment. Do have a great day ahead.